Hello and welcome to your third HTML tutorial. Today we're going to cover anchor tags and how to create links to pages within your site, which will ultimately lead to us going over file paths as promised in previous tutorials. You'll learn how to properly provide paths, both relative and absolute, to your HTML elements. We'll also probably get into some very basic CSS styling to get you started styling your page elements a bit. Alright, so without further ado, let's jump in. So if you remember in the previous tutorials, I showed you how to get into the directory from command prompt. I figured I'd also show you how to get in there through Visual Studio Code itself. So if you open Visual Studio Code and you come up here to File, you can go Open Folder, and boom, you just open that folder that you've created for this tutorial, right? So we hit Select Folder, and we are in there. And obviously I've created index.html already. So just go ahead and hit the new file button and type in index.html and you'll have your index.html file. Alright, so once again, let's start off. Let's go through the motions here. You want your doc type and HTML as an attribute. Create your HTML element, and inside of that, create the first head element. And don't forget your title, because that's very important. So we'll do title, my third HTML tutorial. Okay. And if I'm going too fast for you, feel free to pause the video, start at any time. I'm sorry, I'm a fast typer. Let's just go and we'll create the body element here. Go ahead and just do a div to start with. And inside this div, we're going to go ahead and create what's called a UL element, an unordered list element. So we're going to go UL. Okay. And inside the UL, you usually have LI elements, which are line items. So we'll do LI. And notice how it has the starting and end tag. Don't forget that end tag, although I'm sure it puts it in there for you. Let's go ahead and do maybe 2 of these. What's going on here? Oh, okay, yeah, don't mess that up. LI, go down here, LI. Let's just create like 3 links. So we'll call one, let's see, we're going to do an anchor tag in here. And an anchor tag is just with an A. And every anchor tag has an href element. So just call href. Okay. And we're not going to worry about this yet. For now, just put a little hashtag in there. End it off. And we're going to call this home. Go in between the opening and closing braces and call it home. And then here we'll say a href equals, put that hashtag in there again, and we'll say maybe about. And come down into your third li element in between the opening and closing braces and do another a with an href, set that to a hashtag as well. And let's say contact. Okay. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and create these pages. So up here, we'll do a new file, and we're going to call the first one about.html, and the second one we will just call contact.html. Let's go back to the index.html file, and if you see, we have home, about, contact. We want this to obviously link to the index page. So we're just going to say dot, and this means in the current directory, right here, the dot and the forward slash. If you see, it pops up this IntelliSense here that tells you what files are in that directory. So in the root directory, we want to point this to index.html. Alright, let's do the same thing for the about page. The about page, we want to point to the root directory that we are in and go about.html. So again, these are relative paths. So these are within the directory that we're in. We're in the HTML tut3 directory. In the same directory as index, we have the contact and we have the about page. So we are saying in the current directory, go to about.html. Same with contact. In the current directory, we're going to want to go to the contact.html file. Okay, so let's save that. Let's go ahead and go into first the about, and let's just type something random here. We'll say hello. And in the contact we'll say world. So we have hello world. Alright, so let's open this page up. So if you go into here, into your HTML tut3, and you open up the index page, you'll see my third HTML tutorial. If we click on the about, it takes you to the about page. There's your hello. Now if you go back and you hit the contact link, it takes you to the contact.html, which for some reason is not showing our world, and that's probably because we did not save. Remember to save. So let's go ahead and go back and do a refresh, and there's your world. Let's go ahead and if you click on home, it just links you right back here to the index.html. So let's make this a little bit more robust. And so first of all, in these other pages, you're going to have to copy this whole thing and drop it in. When you really get into web development, you're going to have these frameworks to where this is going to be like a template in a way. So you don't have to type this out more than once. But when you're first starting out, this is just the way you have to do it. So we're going to highlight all of this. Go ahead and copy it. Come over to your about.html and just go ahead and paste this in. And all of these links are going to link to the same exact things. But I would recommend maybe changing your title. So let's change the title to about and save. And do the same thing over here in contacts. Paste that whole chunk in. Let's change this to contact and save that. Maybe over in the index page here, let's change this to home and save that as well. Alright, come on back to your page, refresh it either with the button or Control R. And now if you notice, we hit about. About is here up in the upper portion. We also have, you can see that it went to the about page, and you have these same links that are here. Let's hit contact. Boom, you're in the contact page. It says contact up here in your title, and you can go back home, which takes you back to the index. Now, coming back over here to the index.html, let's add in another line item inside of the unordered list and an anchor tag, and this time we're going to point it to Google. Alright, so in the href, this is called an absolute path, where you're giving the domain and the directory. In this case, it's going to be just google.com, which will take you to Google's index page. Google's URL is https:// we'll just do www.google.com, and we'll end that off, and we'll just say search Google. Okay, save that. Now if we come back to this page here and we click on search Google, it will take us to Google. Imagine that. So back in your code here, Visual Studio Code, let's go to the about.html. Now, if you're in the about.html and you want to go back to the home, that's fine. We go to the index.html page. To provide an absolute link to that, you can come in here and select your whole address bar. Now, obviously, this is going to a file in the file directory. Normally, this would be your website, or it could be localhost if you're developing locally, and we'll get into that more later. But let's copy that, and instead of the relative link in the about.html file, we paste in the absolute directory. So we're saying on the file system, go to C, users, bwest, desktop, HTML tut3, index.html. If we save that, let's go back to the web page and go into the about link. Oh, we don't have our Google search here because we didn't copy paste it in there, but oh well. So now we're in the about page. If we want to go to home, you can see that it goes directly to there, just like the old link. Go to about. Let's right click on this and go to inspect. And your inspect, this is called the developer tools. You can see in here we have this direct, absolute path to this directory right here. And it still works just as before. So let's go a little further on relative paths here. in your directory here, let's create a new folder and just call this folder A. All right. Once you get this folder A created, go ahead and hit the new file, and we'll call this fileA. No specific reason for this name. I'm just choosing these names as we go. All right, so we've created this fileA.html. Let's come up here above the Google search and add another line item. This time we want to link to that fileA page, right? If you notice, the fileA page is in a different folder than the one that we're currently in. So let's go ahead and link to that. A for an anchor tag, href. Now, in Visual Studio Code, it gives you this, right? It says, you could just do this here, folder A, file A, because this is going to go from the root directory, right? I recommend doing the // It's the same thing, but it's more direct. So say folder A, file A.html. And we end this off, and we're just going to say file A. Okay, so let's hit save there. Now, let's copy this whole entire deal here and bring it into the fileA.html and hit Control V to paste. Now, notice how we've done that. Let's go to check it out in the web page. So we'll go home if you're not already there, refresh. Now, we go to file A, and click there. It's brought you into the folder A, fileA.html, right? Now, let's try to use these links. Oh, file not found. Go back, and let's say we click on file A, file not found. Now, our links are broken in this file A page because they're no longer relative, right? So in fileA.html, to get back to index.html, we would want to use a relative path to get out of here. So you want to go up a directory outside of this folder, right? So to do that, you do a double dot. So let's clear this out here. To get out of folder A, we want to do .. That brings you out a directory. And if you notice, the IntelliSense is now showing you have index, folder A, contact.html, and about.html. Right, so let's go ahead and select index.html, or you can type it in. And now we've come out of this directory and we went into index.html. And we do the same with about.html, just add that extra dot, and contact, add that extra dot. And now for this, for the file A link, you're already there, so you don't need to specify this folder or the / after. You just say ./fileA.html because you're in the same directory and you're good. So let's save that. Come back in here to the website. Hit Control R or click the button to refresh. And now if we click on home, we're good. We're back into the home page, as you can see by the title, index.html. And all these links still work. Let's go back to file A. And if we click on file A again, nothing happens because we're here. And the links all still work. The absolute path still works to Google. Contact still works. All right. So that is how you get out of a folder and go up the directory structure. So we're going to go ahead and try to do a little exercise here to get you more comfortable with relative paths. So if you've got folder A selected like this, then you can add stuff into it. But if it's not selected, you're going to end up adding folders to the main directory. See, like that. We don't want to do that in this case. So make sure you have folder A selected. Let's create another folder, and we'll call this folder B. Now that you have folder B selected, create a file inside of folder B and call it fileB.html. Okay. And let's say inside of folder B, select that. Create another folder called folder C. And inside of folder C, create fileC.html. All right. Now, in fileC.html, take this whole deal here into file c.html and paste it. So from index, copy that whole HTML structure and drop it in here to file c.html. Alright, and then in index.html, let's go ahead and add a link to file C. Now, file C is down here in the folder C that's deeply rooted in folder A, folder B, folder C, right? So to write that, href, first we want to go into folder A, correct? So let's do our dot / and then you can either click or type folder A /. Now we want to go into folder B and then folder C. So notice that there's this / every time you go into a new folder. So we went period / went into folder A / into folder B / into folder C. And now we want to point to that file c.html. Okay, let's close that off. And it adds the end tag for you, but make sure you do that if you're not using Visual Studio Code or another IDE that does that for you. Let's go ahead and type file C and save that. Okay, so now we have a link from our home page to file C, right? Let's come into file C, and if you want to, you can add the link to file C. I'm not going to worry about that right now. What we're going to do is fix these links so that they work. Because if right now, if we go into our web page and we hit refresh or click here, and we hit file C, it is going to bring us into file C, but then when we try to access these links again, they're not going to work. You know, contact, none of these are going to work. And that, except for the absolute one, where we tell it to go to Google. So your guys' assignment here is just going to be to go in and fix all of these links so that they go to the right ones. I'm going to give you a little bit here. Pause the video and try to implement this on your own. See if you can do it. If not, come back to the video and I'm going to show you how to do it. All right. Okay, so hopefully you were able to figure it out. If not, we're going to go through that right now. So for index.html, if you look, you're in file C. You're at the very, you're in the slums. You're down at the very bottom. So you want to go up these directories until you reach the home directory. So for that as a relative path from here, let's go to index. What we're going to do is clear this out first, so you get it from a bottom-up perspective here. And we'll do ... That's going to bring you outside of folder C. And then do another ... That'll bring you outside of folder B. So we're now in the folder A directory because we've come up twice. All right, and then again, ... index.html. So you've seen we've gone up 3 directories, and now we are in the root directory in index.html. Okay, same with this one. Let's do ... Now we're in folder B. ... Now we're in the root folder out of folder A. And this time we want to choose about.html, but make sure you don't double it like I just did. It's going to be about.html. So again, we've gone up 3 directories into the root directory, and now we are targeting about.html. Let's go ahead and do the same with this. All right, up 3 directories into the root directory. Now we're at contact.html. Now for this one, for file A to work, let's clear this out now. We want to go up a directory outside of folder C, so we're in folder B now. ... again out to folder A, and then we want fileA.html. All right, so let's save this and let's see if our links work. I'm going to go back to home. Nope, it didn't work there because we didn't refresh, so refresh the page. Now if we go to home, you see we went back to the index. Go back to file C. Let's click on file A. And we are in file A now. You can see folder A, file A.html. We probably should have changed the title there. But let's go back to home, back to file C. If we check contact, we are now in the contact page. Back home, back to C, hit about. We are now in the about.html. So you can kind of see how those relative links work, right? So we're going to do one more little exercise here just to kind of really try and drive this home. We're going to go up into folder B and create a folder BB directory. And inside of there, we'll go ahead and create a fileB.html. We want to link to this file from fileC.html. So come into your unordered list and create another line item. And inside of there, we want to create another anchor tag. It's an href. And this time we want to point to file BB in its nested directory. So again, I'm going to go ahead and have you pause the video, try to do this yourself, see if you can implement it, and I'll be waiting for you when you get back. Okay, so welcome back, and hopefully you were able to implement it, but if not, I'm going to go ahead and show you just how to do it. So from fileC.html, you want to come out of the folder C directory. So now we're in the folder B directory, correct? Now you have file B in here, but that's not the one we want to link to. We want to link to this folder BB. So you would type out folder B-B, and then to get into that directory, you'd want the /. Now you are pointing to file B, or sorry, you're not pointing there, but you're in that directory, but you want file BB.html. So you can either click there, but I would rather you guys type it out so you kind of get used to this. So file BB.html. And then obviously we'll name this file BB. All right. So this is getting kind of confusing, and I understand that. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I know that we haven't really been copy pasting our links to the other pages, so you're going to have to do some back and forth, but I think you get the idea. So we're not going to really go into that. We're not going to, copy everything over, but so let's go to the index.html file by clicking home if you're not already there. And then we'll go into file C because that's where we put the link. So if you notice, now we're in file C.html, and here's our link to file BB. We click on file BB, and boom, it takes you to your file BB.html. And if you can see, here's the structure from the root, goes all the way through C, users, BOS, desktop, HTML tut3, folder A, folder B, folder BB, file BB. All right. And so that about wraps up the absolute and relative paths. I'm going to cover this more as we dig into HTML. We'll probably create a web page that deals with both of these later on, including with images, because images and anything else like styles, they're going to need relative paths as well. All right, so let's move on to the next topic. Okay, so if you come to your index.html page and you look at these links here, we've provided them in an unordered list, so they're just bullets. This doesn't really look like any sort of navigation that you would see, right? Really quickly, I'm going to demonstrate something. So unordered list is just going to provide the bullets. If you want an ordered list with numbers, you provide an OL element, an ordered list. And if you change your start tag, you also have to change your end tag. So we'll save that, and we'll come back in here. And if we refresh, you see that it's numbered these. But we don't want that at all, so let's go ahead and switch this back. I just do Control-Z to undo it, or you can just type it back in, UL. For CSS, to get rid of those bullets, for right now, we're just going to do an inline style, type style, inline style element. And you want to do list hyphen style hyphen type colon none. So we're telling it for the list style type, we don't want bullets, we don't want numbers, we just want nothing. So if you save that and you come back into your home page and refresh, you can see that the bullets or numbers have gone away. Alright, so now that we've gotten rid of those bullets or numbers, let's tackle the next problem. And that would be that these are going down in a block level fashion, right? So remember how in the previous tutorial I told you that line item elements are block level elements. Well, block level elements are just going to go down into the next deal here. So if we right click and hit inspect, go into our dev tools, you see if you hover over the UL, there's the UL element, and then each LI element goes down on a new line. These are block level elements. So what we want to do to these LI elements here is we want to tell them to display inline. So if we go into Visual Studio Code and we want to do inline styles, style equals display colon inline. Okay. Now, the drawback to doing inline styles is that you have to apply the style to each and every element. So we would have to copy this, go to the start tag of each line item, and paste it in. Okay. So by doing this, you accomplish what you want to accomplish, but it's a lot of typing. So we've done that. Let's save it. We go back and we refresh this page. You notice now they are lined up on a single line, which is what we wanted. But you had to go through every single element and add that inline style. So a better way to do this is to actually use a class. So in this case, we're going to come up here to our head and we're going to give the style element. Okay, that's going to be an opening and a closing element. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these. I should have done that before I put my style element, but highlight them, remove them, undo it, however you want. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of all these. And now we can do this with a class. So there's multiple ways you can go about this. You can give each one of these LI elements a class of, so you would say class link item, maybe something, anything you want to call it, you can call it. All right. But then again, we would have to say class in every single one of these. Why don't we just give the unordered list a class? And then I'll show you how to handle that otherwise. So we say class, let's just say nav box, maybe. I don't care what you want to call it. And then we could just target each LI element underneath it and tell it to display them as inline. Okay. So for a class in your style tags, it's period. That's your class. That denotes a class. So you want to call it nav hyphen box. And then to do a rule set, you have the open and closing braces. All right. So we're saying for the class, any element that has the class nav box, I want to apply this style. All right. In this case, we not only have the nav box class, but we have the LI underneath it. So to target the LI, you just do a space LI. Alright, so now we're saying any element with the class nav box with an LI element within it, as you can see, it's kind of showing you, it's selecting all of these that the style is going to be applied to. I want to display them inline. Alright, and that little underline was just telling you hadn't added any rules yet, and you shouldn't have a blank rule set. So if we save this and we come back into here, boom, it's the same thing. You've just used classes instead of inline styling. So let's come into the dev tools again by right clicking and going to inspect or hitting F12, and you can see now that we have this UL class.nav box, and then if we hover over each one of these, they are lined up, but more so if you click on one, you can see over here in your styles, there's your style that you applied. And in the developer tools, you can kind of just play with it and uncheck it and see what would happen. You see how it kind of jumps back down to block level. Now, they have this user agent. This is what your browser automatically applies to elements. And it's saying list item. That's also, it's the same thing pretty much. It's block. But don't worry about that and just focus on this display inline. We've gotten what we wanted here. Now, the next problem that you see is these are kind of too close together, right? So in CSS, there is a concept of padding and margin. So let's go ahead and cover that real quick. So we've already said the li within the nav box, we want display inline. But let's say we also want a padding. So padding is going to be that space between the text and the outside, text and the inside of your element, to where margin will be the space from the outside of your element outward. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that. But here we'll say padding. And we're just going to give it a 10 pixel padding. That means top left, bottom right, all together is going to have 10 pixel padding. So let's save that, and we'll come out here, we'll hit refresh, and boom. So let's go back into the inspect. You can either hit inspect or hit F12, and that'll bring that up. Collapse this down. So here's our UL. And as you can see, actually, the UL has some user agents applied to it already. The orange is the margin, and the green is the padding. And I can't really show that to you. It's not. Hold on. There we go. So this green here is the padding. This orange that you saw a second ago is margin. Anyways, if we go to this li element, you can see each li element, as I come down across the page, has a 10 pixel padding, and that's that green you see around. That's inside of this element. Let's go ahead and go to this li element, and we'll add a border. We'll say border, and you can just follow along with me for now until you understand these fully. But with border, you give it a pixel. We're going to say we want a solid border. You could also do dashed. And there's some other values you can put in there. And then you specify the color. If we wanted red, we would just say red, or if we want green, you say green. In this case, we're going to go solid. Let's do red. Red. Okay. So this borders your elements, so you can see the borders on the outside. The padding, the green, is on the inside. It's between your content and the border of the element. All right. If we instead wanted a margin, we would come in here and we would not have this padding, but we could say margin 10 pixels. And that's going to kind of do the same thing. It's going to get you the same sort of look, except it's on the outside now. You see the border that we put around it. You see the orange on the outside? That's your margin. It looks better to have padding, I think, so we're going to leave that there, and we are actually going to pull out the border. Now, I should also mention any changes you make inside of these dev tools, they don't stay. As soon as you refresh the page, it's going to go away. All right, so if we added this border back and I refreshed, it's going to go away because it doesn't save it. All right. Let's go ahead and style one more thing on our page here before we wrap this up, and that is these anchor tags, these anchor elements. You see that they're kind of providing you with this underline and whether or not it's been visited or not. It'll be blue if it's not visited. It'll be purple if it's been visited. And that's just the user agent styling. Typically, you don't want that, so you can come in and say that you want that styling to go away. So in this case, we can just do, let's see, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You want to be kind of specific with your styling. So we would come down on a different line and we would say we want the nav box class with the li element. And then there's this little ignatz thing if you learn that in math. And that means within the li element, we target the anchor element. So it's basically saying that any li element that is inside of the ul element with the class nav box, as long as it has an anchor beneath it, within it, We want to style it this way. So we're going to say, I think it's text decoration. And we're just going to say none. And save that. And now if we come out here, it has no more text decoration, no underline. Still does the coloring, but that's where you would want to specify the color. So if we want, like, say we want red links for whatever reason, say color, colon, red. Now we have these red links, and it doesn't matter. Oh, obviously these aren't going to be styled, but it doesn't matter if you visited or not. They're going to be red. So again, let's go over this. We have our class nav box that we've applied to this entire element. We're saying go to the class nav box, go to the LIs within, go to the anchor tags within the LIs, and apply this styling, text decoration none and color red. And by doing so, we got rid of the underlines and we colored them red. So there you have it. I've introduced you to a little bit of styling to kind of get you by here. We'll do that in future tutorials, and then in my CSS series we'll really get into it. So again, let's recap on what we covered. We covered the anchor tag, its relative and absolute paths, and then we created these other files, and I showed you how to get into directories above it, and how to link to different files. And we will definitely cover more of this throughout the series. This kind of gets you started. And then we delve into some basic CSS styling so that you don't have to use inline elements everywhere. Inline attributes for your styles. You can actually just provide them up here in the style tag. And we covered the basics for like a class. So we gave this UL element a class, and then we styled its LI elements so that we got them going across the page horizontally, and we gave them some padding so that they're not so close together. And then for the anchor tags, we got rid of that default text decoration that it provides for links. We set it to none, and we set its color to red for whatever reason. I wouldn't recommend that as a design choice. But there. So again, in the description, there'll be a link to a quiz where I quiz you on all of this. And I recommend that you go ahead and just create your own pages and kind of play around with this to get good. But we'll definitely cover more of this throughout the series. So there we go. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please like and subscribe to my page. I'd appreciate it. And I will see you in the next tutorial. Thank you. Bye.